This production is brought to you by In the Dugout, your home of the beautiful game. Hello and welcome once again to the Dugout Debate, on In the Dugout, your home of the beautiful game. My name is Josh, aka the People's Presenter, and joining me as always, alright thanks Alex, are my fellow presenters, partisans and pundits, and my pals, and they are Chris and Alex. Guys, how's it going?
Not too bad. As obviously you and Chris will know, it's very last-minute Dugout Debate from my perspective, but
Hence
excited to get into it. Hence the cap. You don't want to see the lid that's going on under here. It's disgraceful. But yeah, excited to be here.
I was going to say, we're not actually glad to have you back. We're glad to have the cap back.
Yeah.
No, it's cap. I'll free the ginger on some other week, but this week it's hiding again.
Yeah, I think next week you just want to see the cap suspended on its own.
It's going to be hanging by the side, like here.
It still might be Chris in the Dugout Debate at the end, I don't know. Anyway, moving swiftly on back to myself for Picture This. So yes, as that delightfully looking young man just said, we are moving now on to Picture This. And this week is a picture of, I don't know what adjective to use, this very deflated looking Antonio Conte. But guys, what is going on in this picture?
Chris, you want to start us off?
I easily can do. Is this the reaction of Patrice Evra when he realises that there's an athletics track between him and the fans?
Oh, no.
That's clever. I like that. It's way better than any of the ones I've got. Foreshadowing. So, I was going to say, the picture's cropped slightly awkwardly, so you can only see his sort of torso. Is he getting head, but realising, at the time that the last sort of helping him out is the last of Dele Alli's video as well?
I don't know what video you're talking about.
Put it on the screen now.
I think Dele Alli is a wonderful man.
Social media has not altered my perception of Dele Alli whatsoever.
Well, his MySpace account might have. Anyway, any more suggestions?
Quite simply, has some of his false hair fallen out into his eyes?
No, again, it's probably fallen out into Dele Alli's fucking crotch. Have you seen how hairy that fucker was? Jesus Christ.
Why are you obsessed with Dele Alli's crotch, Alex?
I don't know, mate.
Are you the girl in the video?
You caught me. You really caught me.
Well,
that's actually why I've got a cap on, because I've actually got long black hair and I'm trying to hide my identity. But no, I was gonna say, and Chris, I feel like you'll agree with me more on this one than Josh will. Is that video how all young Brexiteers feel when the world just oppresses them so much?
Actually, that is the right answer.
You're not oppressed. Stop acting like it.
Right. Is this...
Right.
Brace yourselves, boys. Is this when you realise that you are, in fact, the little man?
Mindfuck, bro.
What am I bracing myself for?
The hilarity of that. Wait, Josh, remember what we talked about?
Oh yeah,
before?
pity laughter.
3, 2, 1. I don't know why I'm DMing you. My next joke is really not much better. I was just going to say it's representative of how disappointed nobody was when they picture Katie Hopkins high off her tits on Ket stuck in South Africa for apparently being racist.
Nobody apart from me. She's a wonderful woman.
Shut up, fam. Come on.
Did you just say that she'd be going to South Africa so that she could
just call
have
me
her race
fam?
belief?
So much wrong with what I just said.
Didn't realise we had troops on the show.
You're either calling me a sort of lower class word for mate, or you're calling a woman in French, and I don't really know or care which one that is. But please don't do it again.
Can we skip to the bit where we give the actual answer, please?
Be my guest.
That is Antonio Conte hanging his head in shame after another dreadful Chelsea result.
Yes, so obviously Chelsea losing 3-0 to Bournemouth and 4-1 to Watford in consecutive matches, which we're going to discuss more now. Okay, so yes, once again, Josh, with that wonderful transition. So Chelsea currently finding themselves in fourth, I believe, but they are still obviously miles away from from Man City, slightly further away from United, and just below Liverpool in third. However, as a reigning champions, this is somewhat of a below par campaign for Chelsea and for Antonio Conte. But if you look at the comparisons between this season and last season, the one that for me stands out the most is the striker. Diego Costa was ousted by Conte for XYZ reason. Brings in Alvaro Morata. So can we say that the problem does lie with Antonio Conte and maybe his stubbornness or whatever reasons, as opposed to anything tactically or the players themselves?
Yeah, I personally think that his transfer policy has had a huge effect on Chelsea, because I mean, when you look at Chelsea's squad now, with regards to the squad they have compared to the three teams that are above them, which are obviously City, United, Liverpool. I'm aware that you guys might disagree about Liverpool, but I think obviously City have a way better squad than Chelsea. I think both United and Liverpool have a better squad than Chelsea. And to be honest, I'm surprised Spurs aren't ahead of them as well. And you look at it and you think, if you think back to last season and you think back to some of Chelsea's standout performers from last season, you think of N'Golo Kante and Eden Hazard, sure, they're both still there. But Matic was immense for them when they won the league. And they replaced him with Bakayoko, who's been terrible. Diego Costa was immense for them, and they replaced him with Morata. And Morata hasn't hit the ground running. And also, Batshuayi, who is clearly talented and has a good record for them, they just went and shipped off to Dortmund anyway. Yeah. And David Luiz was immense for them last season. He's got rid of him as well. Phased him out. He hasn't got rid of him, but phased him out of the team. So he's one of those managers whose decisions... I think I said this possibly about him, possibly about something else last week, whereby normally, even if I disagree with something that a manager does, I can understand it. But I just really don't understand where Conte's head's at with regards to transfers and his squad selection. So for me, I know some of the Chelsea players are underperforming. Bakayoko has performed far below his 40 million valuation, for example, but... For me, the blame lies with Conte.
Do you think, either of you, that the mind games between him and Jose Mourinho are getting the better of him?
I don't think it's helped at all. I mean, I can't remember exactly who instigated it, but getting involved in any sort of situation like that is hardly going to help. I mean, it's almost reminiscent of Kevin Keegan and Sir Alex Ferguson back in the day when Newcastle had their 12-point lead. And
I would love it if we...
I would love it if we beat...
Love it.
And then they bottled the league. But, of course, this is a slightly different scenario because Chelsea aren't in the driving seat this time. Man City are in the driving seat. And even Man City, who can only afford to put 6 players on their bench.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
Can we bring it back to the matter in hand, please?
Yes. Well, I didn't know you were holding Juan Mata's hand, but oh well.
Awful.
So awful, in fact.
Edit that out.
So awful, in fact.
Brilliant. I approve of that. So, let's move on. Next question.
Alex, do you think that the players are trying to get him fired? Because
we've had our first
I'm still talking, Chris. Alex, do you think that the way that the Chelsea players are playing, it's very negative? They're not just losing to these lower teams; they're getting battered by these lower teams. And it was a bit like when Andre Villas-Boas was at Chelsea, and I think Frank Lampard may have admitted that they were not playing for the manager. Do you think that this is a similar scenario whereby they want fresh blood in that manager's chair?
I'm never entirely convinced when by the argument that any players are deliberately playing poorly because they want the manager out. I'm never convinced by those. I don't think that's ever truly the case. But what I do believe in is the fact that if you've lost confidence in the manager, yes, even if deep down your heart you're like, I prefer a different manager, you tend not to just stop playing completely. But what I think they have done is I think losing confidence in the manager means that when you do go down and you feel like there's no game plan that works, you just sort of give up. And that's why when Chelsea have gone down against these teams, in my opinion, they've gotten battered by them. Like a full confidence Chelsea could have gone 1-0 down against a Bournemouth or a Watford or whoever, and they would have come back and won the game 3-1. But it's not a case of deliberately playing poorly. It's a case of when you do go down, you feel that low already. I feel like mentally you just sort of give up on it. And I think that's where they're at. I don't think they're playing poorly to force Conte out, but I think subconsciously the lack of confidence is affecting them, especially when they go into losing positions. But equally, I think it's the sort of thing whereby, weirdly, if they go 1 or 2-0 up, I think they'll go on and win 4 or 5-0. It's one of those ones where it can go very much either way when your mentality's all askew. But I think it has something to do with it, yeah.
Final question. Obviously, I think if history would dictate that Antonio Conte's time at Chelsea is coming to an end. If you look at certainly Jose Mourinho, he went one and a bit years without winning the title before he was ousted out of Stamford Bridge. Then obviously Abraham Grant didn't win any trophies in his only season, so he was out. Scolari, the same result. Ancelotti, one season after winning the title, he was ousted. Villas-Boas didn't win anything. Di Matteo was ousted months after winning the Champions League and FA Cup, and so on. Antonio Conte, obviously not going to win the Premier League. They're probably not going to win the Champions League. They're out of the FA Cup. So, is his time at Chelsea coming to an end? Do you think he actually is going to get sacked firstly, and secondly, who will they replace him with?
It's only a matter of time before he goes now at this point, because I've seen reports that Chelsea have already got in touch with Luis Enrique about replacing him, and Conte has expressed his own interests in returning to the Italy job as well. So I feel like it's only a matter of time of just one more poor result and he'll be gone, which could very easily happen with West Brom, bearing in mind that you mentioned, Josh, that two of those managers who you mentioned were actually lost their jobs after
West Brom. Yeah.
So could easily be history repeating itself, like you say.
And another quick fact that I think is quite funny. Certainly Ranieri, and I think it may well have been Mourinho. Another manager. Oh no, Abraham Grant it was. Both of their first games were in charge of against United, and that's who Chelsea have got after the West Brom game. So.
Oh really?
History could be repeating itself in more ways than one. But anyway, sorry, were you going to say something, Alex?
I was very quickly just going to echo Chris's thoughts. We know Roman Abramovich is ruthless when it comes to managers, and there's no doubt that Conte is underperforming, especially with the budget that he has, the players he could bring in. There's no doubt that there's definitely some issues there. And I mean, like I said, players' confidence is gone. You can see in press conferences and through his body language that Conte's head's gone too. So I'm with Chris, matter of time.
Okay, so that rounds off our chat about Conte and Chelsea, and who knows, maybe in the coming weeks we'll be discussing his replacement. But until then, it's moving on now to Catboy and talking about our fantasy teams.
So yes, thank you for that, Josh. And we are going to talk about our fantasy I-teams. As always, I'm hosting this one. And it's not been the best performing week in I-team for any of us. One of us in particular had a particularly poor week for an interesting captain and defence selection, which I'm sure they will tell you about. But as it stands, standing is still the same as last time. Josh is in first, Chris in second, and I am in third, but slowly catching up. So maybe if there's one very good week for me, maybe this time next week I can be coming back and bragging my arse off about how I'm actually second in the fantasy team. But that, of course, remains to be seen. And Chris, you can tell me right now, what are you going to do this week to stop me from allowing that to happen?
Well, I can tell you that you're starting to sound like a Spurs fan in that you're bragging about second.
No, I'm bragging about putting pressure on.
Yeah, there you go.
That's why I'm a Spurs fan.
Anyway, last week for me was all right, I suppose. My captain choice actually worked for once. I captained De Gea, and he kept a clean sheet against Huddersfield that you were playing, wasn't it, Josh?
Yeah.
Remind me? Yes, it was. I mean, yeah, Huddersfield weren't going to score in that game, to be honest. Slight niggle in defence. I'm going to have to change I'll change before the game or the fixtures. Monreal's picked up an injury, so he'll be out. And to be honest, I don't really want an Arsenal defender in there anyway when they're travelling to Wembley to play Spurs. Still got Azpilicueta. Not good, especially not good. Chelsea, last two games, they've conceded 7 goals, so maybe he'll be out as well. Still have Davinson Sanchez. Rest of the team is still entirely the same. Gross actually did very well for me in the last game.
Good pronunciation.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Mr. Pascal. No, I think he picked up 11 points for me. Man City players in my squad, De Bruyne and Aguero, let down slightly with the Burnley result, but oh well. Son Heung-min and Mr. Big Cock Dele Alli, they're still in the team.
Josh's face there. Can we just get a gif of Josh's face there?
You can actually make GIFs from YouTube videos, so when this goes out, I'll be sure to do that. Mo Salah picked up 2 goals, and I believe is now equal with Harry Kane in the top goal scorer.
Something like that. If he's not, he's close.
And speaking of Kane, he's still in my team as well. So yeah, that's my side. Not really much to report.
Fair enough. Josh, tell us about what happened to you last week and what you did.
Well, I am neither legally nor morally obliged to discuss my defence in any way whatsoever. I've run it past my lawyers, and he said that there's no reason why I have to discuss that. So my midfield was actually quite good. Obviously Mo Salah scored twice. Apart from that, I don't think there was much activity going on with the rest of my team, to be honest. I think he got me 2/3 of my points on his own. So, I'm still in first, and that's what I really want to say about it.
Is that what we're getting at?
This is a classic sort of Brexiteer avoiding the bad stuff.
Right, so I've spoken to my lawyer, and I've confirmed that I am both legally and morally allowed to discuss what happened with Josh's defence in the absence of him doing it. So very quickly, Josh put basically the entire Chelsea defence in his defence and cap.
Sorry, what was that?
You twat. Anti-captain Victor Moses. Right, moving on. So, I had an alright week in fantasy team. Nothing particularly special. I think I got like 54 points or something like that. Still got Edson in goal because, like I say, team's scared to attack City. Did City keep a clean sheet? I don't think they did they? No, they didn't. Still got Antonio Valencia and Phil Jones in there because I still back them to get clean sheets more often than not. Unfortunately, my god and hero, the man who scored two goals in consecutive weeks, Steve Cook, has been injured, so he won't. I think he's a question mark, so whether or not he plays is up for debate, but Bournemouth very rarely keep clean sheets anyway, so I don't really care. With regards to my midfield, I still have Eden Hazard. I think he got a goal for me over the weekend. They're playing West Brom, so from a fantasy team perspective, hoping he'll maybe get a goal against the bottom side of the league. Still got Pogba in the team, always likely to get an assist. Sterling always likely to pop up with a goal for City. Still got Mane and Mo Salah for obvious reasons. Lukaku up front, believe again got me a goal last week, and I actually really wanted to captain him, but totally forgot to do so, so I was a bit annoyed about that. But I'm going to keep him in the team again this week. And finally, obviously, I've got Harry Kane in the team. And the only transfer I've actually figured out that I'm making in advance is that because it's the early fixture, it means I can make the transfer to schedule later. So I'll swap Harry Kane out and bring in Aguero. But I don't know who I'm going to captain yet. But yeah, that is the end of the fantasy team. I believe, and you can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I believe I'm passing this over to Chris for our number of the week. Is that right?
That's right.
You are indeed.
Brilliant. In that case, over to you, Chris.
So thank you, Alex. Yes, this is the number of the week this time. We had a phrase of the week last week, but this time there is a number involved, and that number is 100. So, lads, what does 100 mean?
I'll kick us off. Is it how many times Chris has watched Deli Ali sex tape?
I'm pretty sure it's how many times Alex has watched it.
Not far off. I was going to say 100. What percent dickhead is League One Bible?
Actually, speaking of that, in our communications with League One Bible, how many times did he misspell the word didn't?
Didn't. Love you, League One Bible, if you're watching this.
This is also dedicated to League One Bible.
As always, all that
he doesn't know what YouTube is.
He'll just put our videos on his own account and pass them off as his own.
Yes, I am 3 people.
I am 3 people. But no, carrying on, 100. Is that how many messages get sent on the In the Dugout group chat for every one that I read?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hence the cap.
Still have 3.
Is it in what percent? What percentage of Liverpool's games has Virgil van Dijk starred in that they haven't kept a clean sheet?
Oh, it's funny because it's true.
Chris, your team's in the championship.
We're coming up.
Right. Speaking of coming up, what percent disappointed was I that our picture of the week isn't Dele Alli getting his knob sucked?
See, this is what I mean by he's obsessed with it.
It's funny, man. Have you seen all the memes?
Sure that
They're
it's not you who bent down and sucked him off.
Have you seen the meme where it's like, you know, the cringy thing they've got on Sky Sports where they do the team sheets and all the players come out and they're like that? It's just him there.
The chat which you didn't read.
Is it how many million pounds are Newell's old boys, aka Knob, willing to spend on Dele Alli after his sex tape?
Sponsor him. Now, mate, he's moved to Brazzers FC. That's one message I did see in the chat.
Yeah.
No, but of course, the number of the week 100 is representative of Harry Kane reaching 100 goals in the Premier League.
That's correct, Mr. Lavery. And presumably you know that since you've spent so much time with Dele Alli. But yes, Harry Kane has now hit...
It's hard to talk to him most of the time. My mouth's usually pretty full.
Well, yeah, he's usually hard as well.
But yes, Harry Kane has now hit 100 Premier League goals and he's become, I believe, the first Premier League player to actually reach that number in the Prem whilst still playing for Spurs. And I believe I'm passing over back to you, Josh.
Yes, you are.
Yes, I am. To ask some questions about Harry Kane's new feat.
Okay, so yes, thanks, Chris. So moving on to questions about Harry Kane and a bit more Tottenham in general slightly later on. But first of all, Harry Kane obviously reaching 100 goals. He's probably the nearest thing that we've got to a present-day Alan Shearer. But talking about football at the moment, is he the best out-and-out striker currently in world football?
I mean, for me, yeah. The stats don't lie as far as I'm concerned when it comes to strikers. If you're scoring goals, then you're a good striker. Simple as. You could get one touch a game and you could score once a game, and that would make you a good striker, in my opinion. And Harry Kane's stats, the only people on his level when it comes to statistics at the moment, realistically, are Ronaldo and Messi. And Mo Salah, believe that. But no,
and Messi Lingard.
It's literally, and of course Messi Lingard. But like for me, at this current point in time, if you're looking to the people that are succeeding Messi and Ronaldo for the Ballon d'Or, he's up there for me. And I think Suarez is getting on a bit. I think Lewandowski is up there. I still think Lewandowski is fantastic. But if Harry Kane is not the best out-and-out striker in world football, then he is at worst in the top three, unless you're an Arsenal fan, you'll believe it. So, for me, yes, he is.
Yeah. Chris, a bit like Alan Shearer, he's currently stayed at Tottenham, who haven't won a trophy since, I think, 2009, which was the League Cup. When Alan Shearer was at Newcastle, they didn't win a trophy, I don't, apart from the Intertoto Cup, maybe. Do you think that, unlike Shearer, Kane will need to go to another club, a bigger club, a more successful club, to win trophies? Or do you think that he's going to follow his heart and not his head and stay at Tottenham?
Well, he has expressed, ideas and wishes of actually being a one-club man, which I do quite like from him. And of course, he's got family now, so it's not quite as easy to just up sticks to another country. But I feel like Tottenham will seriously need to start winning stuff in order to convince him to stay. They are, as we speak, I believe, they're still 2-0 up against Newport County in the FA Cup right now.
Oh, so he's going to sign a 5-year contract tomorrow.
Yeah.
Back of that.
But yeah, Spurs, they've reached the semi-finals of the FA Cup last season. If I remember right, they finished pretty well second last season.
They put the pressure on.
They put the pressure on. Yes, they did. So yeah, they are edging closer and closer to winning silverware, and I feel like that needs to happen sooner rather than later in order to keep a striker of Kane's caliber at the club.
And who wouldn't want to stay at Spurs to play with rising star Moussa Dembele?
Yeah.
You know, young prospect Moussa Dembele.
Over a year on, and we're still making jokes about this. I love it.
That's because it's a good meme.
It is.
Playing with 28-year-old prospect Theo Walcott at Everton.
The original in the dugout meme. Okay, so final question, more on Spurs in general. Are they guaranteed a top 4 finish? Because if you think about kind of the trajectory of performances throughout the season, Chelsea are very much on the way down. Spurs are very much on the way up. Liverpool is kind of in the air. I mean, they're third at the moment, but anything can happen. Do we think that Spurs are gonna hit that top 4 spot? And if so, at the expense of whom?
I think at the moment, and I might be biased here, the only team that are in the top four, in my opinion, who are going to drop out of it are Chelsea. I think, like I say, I think they've got the weakest side out of the top four currently. And I know, and like people look at the two back-to-back very poor results that Liverpool had. You've got to remember in that month of January, over the Christmas period, they lost one game in the Premier League. Obviously, going out the cup's a different thing. And it was a poor game to lose the Premier League, but a win to win and a loss to loss. And generally speaking, I don't think I can see Liverpool dropping out, and I definitely can't see Manchester clubs dropping out. If anything, I'm amazed that Spurs aren't up there at the moment, because for me, City have got the best team in the league. Done. For me, it seems fairly clear that Spurs are second best to City. So how then? I know that I was talking to you guys about this before, and Josh pointed out they have sort of patches where they've struggled, and obviously new stadium and everything. But they're settling in slowly. They're starting to hit form consistently, and they do have the second best side in the league for me. So I think they will break. I don't think anything's guaranteed, but I think they will break top four. It wouldn't even surprise me if come the end of the season they'd managed to climb their way up to third or second. But they should be getting, with that team, 100% should be getting top four.
Okay, Chris, any last words?
I have to concur with Alex. Similarly, with the whole trajectory, Chelsea are going down and Spurs are in good form and they're going up. I predicted Spurs to finish third. I still think they will finish in the top four spot and will finish above Chelsea if this continues because, well, we've already spoken about how Conte could be on his way out the door, and it's not really a lot of time left in the season for a new manager to settle in, really, unless you look at what the likes of Gus Hiddink did, taking over from Mourinho a few seasons back.
And Scolari in 2009.
Indeed. So, yeah, I mean, Spurs could very easily finish above Chelsea. They've got, like Alex said, a far better team. I think they've got better squad depth as well. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on the matter.
Okay, great. So that rounds off the last of the questions on Spurs and Harry Kane. Moving on now to the penultimate segment of the show, which is now over to Chris for our Premier League predictions.
So yes, thank you, Josh. And we'll just get straight into our predictions for this weekend's fixtures, starting off with the biggest game of the weekend, North London derby, Tottenham against Arsenal, white versus red, all that debacle over at Wembley. Well, I've already said it's the biggest game of the weekend, especially bearing in mind some of the transfers that have happened in the January. Arsenal being the more active of the two, bringing in, Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang, and Spurs strengthening their attacking force with Lucas Moura. We've already seen how well Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang have combined for Arsenal already in their. I can't remember who they were playing, but it was Everton. Everton 5-1 win, just convincing to say the least. Do you think that they could, perhaps, shall we say, cause some sort of an upset at Spurs? Or do you think, what do you think the game's going to be?
Josh, you want to go?
No, not really, because you go first. That's the order.
So I've personally gone for 2-2 for this. So the reason being is that normally I would be very confident the Spurs win here. Like I say, I think Spurs have a better team than Arsenal. I think Spurs have the best team in the league. But I think this is different purely because they have had some time to settle in, but until they move to the new stadium, I don't think Spurs will ever be truly comfortable at Wembley. It's a different sort of experience for them. So their home advantage is somewhat diminished, in my opinion. And furthermore to that, the new signings at Arsenal seem to, we've only had one game, but seem to look like they could be incredibly dangerous. And Spurs' defence this season, I don't think has been quite the force that it has been in the last couple. So I'm not as confident in Spurs defensively as I have been in the last couple of years. And Arsenal, I think the good thing about Arsenal's attack now is the fact that before, all of their options were really, you couldn't really play through the middle and play quick attacking football with the players they had. You could do whatever you want in the build-up, but at the end, you're probably going to whip across it, and that's how you're going to score for Arsenal. Whereas now they have the sort of players where they can go out wide if they want. If they want to play inside and play tiki-taka, they have the option to do that. So they've got a lot of options to attack very fluidly, and especially having not had proper time to really study how Arsenal are doing. I think Spurs and really any defence that comes up against Arsenal at the moment is going to struggle to deal with that. So my reason being for giving a draw is that I think Arsenal will get goals, but my reason for not saying Arsenal will win is because I think Spurs are a better side in general. And whilst Arsenal might get goals, Arsenal's defence is still not great. And with somebody like Harry Kane, and you've got options from distance like Eriksen, Son, whatever, Spurs are always likely to get goals. So I think that's why I've gone for an entertaining draw, because I can't pick between them, but I think there will be goals.
Okay. So yeah, I think that it's going to be a 3-1 win for Tottenham. I think that the Arsenal-Everton game, I think that Everton, because they've been out of form for quite a number of weeks now, I think that might be masking our judgment slightly as to how good Arsenal actually are, or how mediocre they actually are. I think that Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang, don't get me wrong, I think that's a partnership that's going to work very well. It works at Dortmund. There's a reason why it won't work at Arsenal. However, Arsene Wenger has been, for the last 4 or 5 years, signing these high-profile signings, and he's still forcing them into these tactics that aren't working. Obviously, they're going to get the odd game where they get a good result, but on the grand scheme of things, against a team like Tottenham, a strong team like Tottenham, they're kind of finding their feet a bit more at Wembley now. I can't see Arsenal causing too much damage there. Spurs are, to be honest with you, they're, to quote a Dele Alli sex tape reference, they're blowing my mind. So I can't see anything beyond a Spurs win, and I've got not much more to say about that, really.
Well, I've also gone for a Spurs win, not quite as high scoring. I've gone for a 2-1 because I feel like Arsenal will slightly be hampered if Monreal doesn't play, because he has been their informed defender at the moment. And then you've got the likes of Monreal and not Monreal, sorry, Mustafi, Mertesacker, and the like, who've been a bit hit and miss in defence. So the way that Spurs play, they can very easily break them down. And now we're just going to rattle through the rest of the games this weekend, starting off with Everton hosting Crystal Palace.
I've gone 1-1. Crystal Palace. I think I'm going to go for Crystal Palace. When they're out of form, I think it'll... So, yeah, 1-1.
Okay,
Josh?
I'm going for a 2-1 Palace win. As I just said, Everton aren't in the best of form at the moment. I think a bit like people on Gap here, they need to find themselves a bit more. I think I highly rate Crystal Palace under Roy Hodgson. I know they've had a couple of shaky weeks, but I think their squad in general, they've got more character about them in order to overcome a bad run of form, unlike Everton. Obviously, Everton are still going to do well come what may, but I think Palace will edge this victor just about. So yeah, 2-1 Palace.
See, I've gone the other way. I reckon Everton could actually get a relatively comfortable win here. I've gone for a 2-0 because I feel like at home Everton under Sam Allardyce have been relatively solid. And, well, we've seen that he can make even Theo Walcott score twice. So presumably some sort of thing like that can happen with the likes of Palace, who have been hit with some serious injury woes. I know that Bakary Sakho is now out for the remainder of the season, which hasn't really helped with their attacking options at all. And they signed Alexander Sørloth on deadline day from Midtjylland, who, he was scoring a lot in the Danish league, but will that translate to the Prem? We don't know. So that's what I think that game's going to be, 2-0 Everton. Quickly on to Stoke hosting Brighton.
I've gone 1-0 Brighton. Don't particularly rate Stoke, and I've been kind of impressed. I wouldn't say I've been massively impressed with Brighton, but I think they're solid, and I just don't see Stoke scoring. So, yeah, 1-0 Brighton.
Okay, for me, I think the formula, it seems to be this season for teams rejuvenating themselves and finding some good form at the bottom end of the table is fun, oddly enough, to bring in a new manager. And that's what Stoke have done. That's what Brighton haven't done. I think Stoke are going to win this game 2-0. I think Stoke will actually end up surviving. I think Brighton are going to, if not be relegated, be very, very close to relegation. And I think it's kind of going to be a very interesting fixture for two teams that are battling relegation. But I think Stoke under Paul Lambert, they've impressed me in recent weeks. So I think Stoke will win 2-0.
Again, my prediction differs from the pair of you. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. Stoke's new signing, Badu Ndiaye, he really impressed me. And he seems to be a decent creative outlet. But then Brighton have been scoring a lot recently. Jose Izquierdo's goal at the weekend was absolutely magnificent. And of course, Mr. Pascal, who is in my I team, hopefully he can score. But yeah, I feel like it's just going to be a draw. Swansea hosting Burnley. Swansea coming into some good form.
So where's my Swansea? Here it is. So I've gone for 2-1 to Swansea. I've gone for. So Burnley, again, really rate Burnley at home, but away from home not so much. And like I say, I can't pronounce his name, so under their new management, Carvalhal, something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. They seem to have rejuvenated somewhat, obviously with some very good results in the last couple of weeks. So because of that, I have gone for 2-1 to Swansea. I think their rejuvenation is still continuing, and they're against a side that don't tend to be that great away from home. So yeah, 2-1 Swansea.
Okay, I'm actually going to use Alex's logic to produce a slightly different result. I'm going for a 1-1 draw. I think Burnley on paper are far superior to Swansea, but as Alex said, their away form's a bit questionable. Swansea, again, under Carvalhal, have been impressive since he arrived. But I think as that balances out, it is going to balance perfectly, in my opinion, for a 1-1 draw.
Get ready for another different result, boys. I've gone.
Oh, it's going to be a big week.
Because it worked so well the last time.
I've gone
this
for
why he's going last.
1-0 Burnley win. Because Burnley, they really impressed me to come back against Man City and snatch a draw. So theoretically, against a significantly weaker Swansea side, admittedly coming into some good form under Carvalhal. That's three different pronunciations of the same name we've all had.
Obviously, mine's the nearest, but we'll move on.
But yeah, I've something just tells me that Burnley will just nick this 1-0 because they don't tend to score too many, so just the one goal I think will separate it. West Ham, Watford, of course, Watford's boss Javi Gracia getting an emphatic first win as Hornets boss. How do you think it's going to translate over?
Interestingly, I've actually gone for Watford to lose this one. I've gone for 2-0, 2-0, 2-1. 2-1 I've gone for. 2-1 to West Ham. Because, again, Watford's away form in general I know they've got a new manager, but their away form this season has massively impressed me. And West Ham, I don't know why, it's finding it very difficult to describe, but sometimes I just get feelings about West Ham because they have the quality in that side to definitely beat Watford, but they just don't show it half the time. And sometimes it's just got to come out. So this one's much less of a logical fit. I just have a gut feeling that West Ham are going to win it, so, which is I appreciate is very unhelpful for the recording. But yeah, I've gone 2-1 to West Ham.
I've gone for 2-1 for Watford. Probably no surprises there.
Chris, if you've gone for a bloody draw, I swear to God.
Watford have been one of the standout teams. I don't think that, as I think we said last week, that Marco Silva deserved to lose his job. But hey, Javi Gracia's come in and he's excelled. I'm sure Chris is going to mention Patrice Evra, but I'll do it instead of him. I don't think that Evra's going to impact the West Ham side at all. He's, I think, 36 now. Maybe he's there for experience. I don't think he got particularly on with Moyes particularly well when they were at United together. West Ham have had some odd form, really. Javier Hernandez, one of the strangest performances throughout the season I've seen from any of the newcomers. Watford, like I said, they're doing well. Obviously, they absolutely battered Chelsea, albeit an out-of-form Chelsea. So yeah, Watford 2-1 win.
Oddly enough, I've actually gone for the same as Josh. I also think Watford will win 2-1 because they played Chelsea off the park. Let's be real here. And West Ham are missing significant attacking players like Arnautovic and Lanzini. So I feel like that their goal-scoring threat is seriously hindered on that front. Whereas Watford, as we saw, they were creating chances left, right and centre against Chelsea. Admittedly, a 10-man Chelsea who had to play an hour's worth of the game without all the men on the pitch. But oh well.
Mate,
that was probably an advantage.
Playing against a team, a Bakayoko versus Chelsea is probably an advantage.
Yeah, you know Bakayoko's bad when his own supporters are singing your fucking shit.
They did. They sang that as he was coming off.
That means you're really bad for our younger viewers.
Sorry, Lee.
Use it at school.
You'll understand.
He didn't play very well.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for his post now to say exactly what we've said. But no, let's carry on. We've got more games to get through. Man City hosting Leicester.
Not too much to say about this. I've gone 3-1 Man City, and I think it's fairly obvious why. The only question about my result is probably the one for Leicester. I just back Jamie Vardy to get a goal. He's that kind of quick, aggressive, pressing in behind attacker that Manchester City's kind of struggled to deal with. So I can see them nicking goal. But yeah, fairly self-explanatory, 3-1 City.
Textbook 2-0 win for City. I can't really build on it much more. Like I said, I don't think Leicester will score. Again, I keep going on about this. New manager has come in, Claude Puel, who I've been very impressed with as well. But Man City, they've won the league already, so they're above and beyond any other team in the Premier League. I think they're going to dispose of Leicester with ease. 2-0.
I've gone 3-1 as well as Alex. Of course, there's been the whole Mahrez debacle with Leicester. Mahrez routinely not turning up to training for a number of sessions, which I feel like is incredibly babyish, if I'm being honest. Handing in a transfer request on the final day of the window is a bit short notice, Mahrez, but we know you're not going to be watching this and you're not going to care anyway if you do, so...
At least you didn't do a Peter Odom wingy and just turn up to the ground.
At least you will sign me. Yeah. I will not leave till you sign me.
At least you didn't do a Diafra Sacco and book your own medical with another club. But yeah, 3-1 Man City, like Josh said, textbook, but like Alex said, 3-1. Next up, Huddersfield hosting Bournemouth.
Huddersfield really aren't very good, and Bournemouth are sick in the last few weeks. They just genuine really good. I said like last week, I can't remember which game it was in, where I was like, Bournemouth will get a goal because Callum Wilson will score, and Callum Wilson didn't score because Callum Wilson is a G, and when we have our inevitable who should be going on the plane to Russia conversation, Callum Wilson better be on that goddamn plane. I swear to God. But yeah, I've been really impressed with him. I've been impressed with Bournemouth in general, their chance creation. Nathan Ake's been brilliant for them in defence in the last few weeks as well, so can't be praising them enough, really, and I think that they'll get a 2-0 win here.
Slightly differently to Alex, but generally the same. I've gone for 1-0 Bournemouth win. As Alex said, Huddersfield, pretty much firm candidates now for relegation, as we all thought, really. They had their great start and it's fallen. Bournemouth, I believe, are in ninth, which I was massively surprised at when I saw the table. I thought, wow, that's a seriously impressive job that Eddie Howe's done and is continuing to do. 1-0 Bournemouth.
I've gone 2-1 Bournemouth, so whichever way the score goes, Bournemouth had better bloody win, because otherwise we're not going to get it. No pressure on you, Bournemouth. Something does tell me that Huddersfield may nick a goal, because they do tend to create a fair few chances when they play at home. But then the class that Bournemouth have in attack should surely just outweigh them. Callum Wilson, Junior Stanislas, these sorts of players, they've just been scoring for fun recently against, let's be honest, a weak Chelsea team, and I can't remember exactly who they were playing in the following game, but they still went on to win. And I think it speaks a lot of volumes about how close the table is that Bournemouth put 2 wins together and then they're up in ninth, having been...
Yeah, they went from relegation candidates.
Remember how at the start of the season I said I wanted a tight bottom half? I'm getting it.
So did Dele Alli, apparently.
Yep, I knew that joke was coming. Set you up there, mate. No problem.
And I finished it off just like he did. You didn't expect that one, did you?
So you're calling her an it, which is a little bit tetchy, but
I'm not going to assume her gender. So
we support.
Oh, fair enough.
You said her gender. Huh?
Oh,
their gender.
He's been jimmied.
Let's move on, please.
Right. Newcastle hosting Man United.
So, I found this one quite difficult because I think Manchester United will win, as I would guess both of you do as well.
Actually, no.
And
did you just assume my prediction?
Shut up. So part of me wanted to say Manchester United were going to batter Newcastle, and part of me wanted to say it was going to be really close, and I sided with it being really close in the end, purely because I don't know if either of you watched Newcastle or Manchester City, which I think ended up being like 2 or 3-1 City. 3-1 City, where I got a hat trick. But 3-1 was so unrepresentative of the game. Newcastle defended so well. Benitez, they're not doing well, but Benitez made them very difficult to break down, especially at home. United, I think, will get a goal. That's why I think they're going to win. And I can't see Newcastle scoring. But like I say, they're incredibly frustrating and difficult to break down. And I think it might be one of those ones where United plug away for 50, 55 minutes, get a goal, and then Mourinho's kind of like, right, we'll take 1-0 win. So, yeah, that's why I've gone for that, 1-0 United.
Okay, I've gone for a 2-0 United win, pretty much similarly to the City result that I predicted just now. I think that United's defence, I think it is the best in the league, if not one of the best. Newcastle ultimately are near the bottom of the table for a reason. They're not scoring enough, they're conceding too many. That's just standard relegation candidates. There's not a lot to say about that, really. I think I would love Sanchez to pop up with another one. Lukaku maybe finding some form again. It's maybe too early to tell at the moment, but he obviously did get a goal the other day. I haven't got much more to say about that, really. I think most of it speaks for itself.
Similarly to Josh, I've gone for a 2-0. Alex, you're absolutely right in that it took City a lot of effort to break down Newcastle, but then once they did, the floodgates open. I feel like something slightly similar will happen with United. They'll score at some point in the second half and then be able to grab another just from maybe a lapse in concentration. But yeah, 2-0 United. Next up, Lavery's very own Liverpool and their yearly visit to their local supermarket, Southampton.
Do you know something? Some of you might disagree. I think a Liverpool win is probably the most likely result here. And I almost always predict Liverpool to concede. But on this occasion, I'm going for 2-0 Liverpool purely because you can talk about logic, you can talk about football. There's one thing that's certain in life, and that's Twitter memes. And the Twitter memes will write themselves if Virgil van Dijk finally gets a bloody clean sheet against Southampton. So I've gone for 2-0 Liverpool. Arguably could have gone for more. I don't really rate Southampton. I don't think they're that particularly strong in defence or attack. But say what you will, Liverpool have undergone something of a dip in form, so I don't think we're going to batter Southampton. But yeah, I can't see them scoring against us, regardless of how shy our defence is. So 2-0 Liverpool.
I've gone for 3-1 Liverpool. I think, as I've said in recent weeks, both on and off air, that Virgil van Dijk makes zero difference to the Liverpool defence. They're going to concede whether he plays or not, and ironically, actually, the one game he hasn't played since he joined, they didn't concede. But I think if Liverpool are having a bit of a shocking day in defence and he is not going to impact that much, I think Southampton, just on the basis of Liverpool having a bit of a dodgy defence, might grab a goal. Liverpool's attack is, even with or without Coutinho, is still incredibly strong. Obviously, you've got Mane, Firmino and Salah. Any of those that could combine to score an assist. So I think 3-1, maybe slightly pushing it, but certainly Liverpool win.
Similarly to Josh again, 3-1 Liverpool. You were talking about how the memes would write themselves if Van Dijk finally keeps a clean sheet against Soul Club. I think it would be funnier if he didn't play, they kept a clean sheet.
Or if he got sent off. And scored no goal.
Played and we lost 3-0.
Does a Jonathan Woodgate at Real Madrid?
I would love that.
Own goal, red card, brilliant. Whole lot.
Sold.
But no, 3-1 to Liverpool.
For 75 million.
3-1 to Liverpool. Southampton really don't tend to score that many, despite sticking 3 past West Brom, which I believe Alex, you said would be amazing if you predicted that to be a 0-0 and then it turns out to be a really exciting.
Sometimes my profit skills work against me.
Yeah, that's the same with all religion, really. Wow. Oh, I'm the one getting flack for being slightly...
Chris, you've been going for 20 minutes. Move on to the last fixture.
Yeah, Chelsea West Brom, quite possibly Conte's last game.
Weirdly, I think I said a similar thing about Arsenal, whereby if a good team is going through a bad run of form, especially if they come up against a small side, sometimes you get a feeling that they're just going to have one resurgent sort of battering. And it could be the case that Chelsea lose horrifically again, but for some reason, again, I just have a bit of a feeling that Chelsea are going to win. They're going to win quite comfortably, even though West Brom did take down certain teams in certain games that we don't talk about. They're bottom of the league for a reason. Shut the Right. They're bottom of the league for a reason, and Chelsea do have quality in that side if they decide to show it, and if they bother to keep 11 men on the pitch, which more often than not they will. So I've gone 3-0 Chelsea.
Okay, well, certain defenders that I'm not going to name for legal or moral reasons didn't keep a clean sheet in the last 2 games. And despite my better judgment, I think that they are going to concede again. I think it'll be 2-1 Chelsea. I think West Brom are probably the most likely candidates for relegation this season. Actually probably the one team where the new manager hasn't done that much different to the previous manager. It's West Brom. I think it's what you see is what you get really with them. Chelsea, they're at home. Hopefully they're going to have the fans behind them. Well, hopefully I don't really care. I want them to lose, but for the purposes of the predictions, I think they'll have the fans behind them. 2-1.
No, they won't have the fans behind them because they're now supporting Man City. But yeah,
they have fans.
We're just kicking off against 2 clubs.
All of our African followers on Facebook are just going to go to the local corner shop and buy their fake Man City shirt instead of the Chelsea one.
Yeah, cool.
Guys, follow Chelsea News 101 on Twitter.
In cooperation with League One Bible.
He's a really top geezer. His arms
League One Bible wishes.
He goes to the gym a lot. He's really muscular.
I've gone for a 2-0 Chelsea win because I don't think that the Watford or the Bournemouth results are conducive to their home performance, really. I feel like they will bounce back against the bottom club and, yeah, just a routine 2-0. And that rounds off the predictions, perhaps 15 minutes behind what I originally thought we would. But, yeah, we're just going to roll straight into the actual dugout debate of our dugout debate.
So meta. So yes, moving on to our final part of the programme, which is the dugout debate part of the dugout debate. This week, in light of recent events or recent talking points in the footballing world, we've decided to discuss whether England, like many other countries in Europe, should have a winter break. Without further ado, I'm just going to move straight on to Alex, and then Chris can give some points as well. So, Alex, where are you on this?
So, I believe when you guys suggested this topic, I was kind of on the fence because, on one hand, I really like watching football over Christmas, but that would literally be my only argument in favour of it. And that's not really a logical argument. That's just, I like watching football. Great. Whereas I think there are plenty of arguments in favour of a winter break. So I am therefore overall in favour of a winter break. I've got a few points for this, but to break them down very quickly, just so we can do some quick summary and move on. First one, pretty small point. Everybody wants to enjoy the Christmas break, and I think that even players have come out and spoken about the fact, especially players that celebrate the holidays as a religious thing, that it affects morale when they are not allowed to do so. They're not allowed to properly enjoy Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever the hell they're celebrating. Furthermore, I think that the not having winter break gives bigger teams with a bigger budget and bigger squads a colossal advantage over the smaller teams. It actually decreases the competitiveness of the league, which I think is very unfair. Going on from that, I think that it leads to more injuries as well. You see so many more injuries in December and January than any other time in the year, which again relates to the fact that, smaller teams have smaller squads and can't actually play, rotate the squads as much as a Manchester City or a United or a Liverpool, which it's also very unfair. In addition to that, it detriments big teams in European competitions because everyone else had a break and their players have to keep on going. And furthermore to that, it detriments us if we've got an international tournament because obviously the majority of English players play in England. And when it comes to something like a World Cup, everyone else has essentially had 2 weeks off and played half a season. So they're much fresher going into that tournament than any of our players because they haven't had a break at all for the entire season. So, yeah, those are my shortened reasons why I think that there should be a winter break.
Okay, so, and Chris, I'm assuming you're on the other side of the fence. So where are you?
Well, yeah, I personally do feel like it should remain the way it is. Introducing a winter break would bring a whole new meaning to dry January. Because let's be honest, January is one of the worst months of the year. It's full of, it's
December History Month.
Yes. It's full of unrealistic resolutions about eating less chocolate or going vegan or whatever the hell you want to do. And let's be honest, one of the real highlights in this country is that there are more football fixtures going on during this period. Just a little quick jab at one of the things you said, Alex, about how the players are playing more fixtures over a shorter length of time and it can result in injuries and the like. By having a winter break, you're only going to be postponing those fixtures for a later date and just compressing them at another point in the year. So you're going to have to play those games at some point, and you will be playing them within a shorter time frame anyway. So you're not really solving the problem. You're just putting it off until later. And so, yeah, that's just a little quick insight as to what I have to say on the matter. And now back over to you, Josh, because you've yet to put your opinion across.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so I'm on the same side as Alex. I think that we should have a winter break. I'm just going to kick off with a quick bit of rebuttal to Chris on what he just said. There isn't a necessity, I don't believe, to confine all I think it's about 4 or 5 fixtures into such a small time period. There is no reason why they can't be spread over maybe the early part of the season or a bit later on. I don't think there's any need for any part of the season to have so many fixtures in such a small time frame. I think that maybe international fixtures could be moved, something like that. I think there's no reason why that can't be changed. But I think personally my main reason for believing that we should have the winter break is because if you look at the different countries, certainly Germany, they have a winter break and they perform better in Europe, generally speaking, than the English teams have done in recent years since it's been introduced. And I think the primary way that England is going to be keeping up in Europe with these bigger clubs is if we adopt some of the same methods as they do. If they have a 2-week break, they're obviously going to be fresher and fitter than the English players that are playing continuously throughout the Christmas period. And I think if you want to use the tradition, they used to play games on Christmas Day, so should we do it on Christmas Day just because that's tradition? I don't think that we should. I think a bit like Alex said that he enjoys watching football over the Christmas period. Chris enjoys watching Dali Ali's sex tape. Doesn't mean it's the right thing to do at the end of the day.
Mate, all I'm saying, right?
Well, I'm fairly sure
all
that's...
I'm saying, Josh, one monitor here, one monitor there. You know the rest.
One
hand on the remote, one hand... Anyway, moving on.
You get to watch it twice at once.
2 Dali Ali sex tapes.
Double day.
Anyway, so also if you talk about the lower league teams, I assume that this would be a division-wide, nationwide break. The lower teams have a lot of games that are postponed because they can't afford to heat the pitch. The pitches get frozen. That would cause fixture congestion further on in the season, especially when they play more games than the Premier League does. They finish earlier. So I think if they were to have a bit of a break, so when it's seriously cold and they've got so many games happening in that short space of time, they're better prepared to cope with that. And they're my main points, really. I don't know if you've got anything to argue back against with.
Well, the other aspect of other European leagues, for example, in Germany, the other thing to consider is that they only have one cup competition, that being the Deutsche Pokal. I feel like a far better solution to the congested fixture list problem would be to get rid of the League Cup and only have the FA Cup, because then not only would you be increasing the value of the FA Cup because it's a European slot, you'd also be freeing up a lot of time to play the fixtures across if you're going to have this big break in the January. Do you think would that be a viable solution?
I think that'd be immensely unfair though, because I know our debate last week was about whether cups like that were dead or not. And me and Josh both argued that they were dead. But one of the points that you made that I think probably me and Josh could both get on board with was the fact that to some extent things like the League Cup are big opportunities for smaller clubs to...
Well, we were talking about the FA Cup.
Yeah, I know.
The same principle applies, though. The same principle, yeah.
Like, small clubs get the opportunities to, if they do have a good run and progress through to the 4th round or something, the financial incentive is there. It gives them a bit of money. Teams like Newport get the opportunity to go and play at Wembley like they are tonight. I don't know what the score is, but they're probably losing.
It was 2-0.
It was 2-0 in the end. But either way, they won't care. They've gone to they've played at Wembley, which is huge for them. I think if you take away the League Cup, that to some extent solves the congestion problem, but that creates a whole other host of problems and it's going to piss a lot of people off. I think the winter break is just a much more logical solution, a solution that everybody can work around, a solution that is tried and tested in other leagues, so we know it works. And so when you take that away, to me, with regards to an actual debate, it seems like you're in the same position that I was, which is that the only real point you can think of is that January is a bit boring and we like watching football over Christmas. The only difference is that I thought that was a weak argument in and of itself, so I've gone to the other side. So I'll throw it back over to you if you've got anything else to actually add to it. But if you haven't, and your only argument is we like football, then it's a little bit like, you know.
Well, let's be honest, the winter break is not actually going to be a break, though, is it? Because, of course, you get those lucrative friendlies.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily... They don't necessarily go hand in hand. There's not something that says... There's not a contract that says if they have winter break, they have to play these international fixtures. That's just something that's been talked about, just as a winter break has been something that has been speculated. I would be hugely against having these international friendlies. I think that a break should mean a break for 8 days, 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever.
But then that's exactly the problem. You're going to be able to facilitate the fact that the clubs can then book these friendlies with other teams, and then it's just going to completely remove the point of there actually being a break.
I can't speak for what the other teams are going to do. As far as I'm concerned, they should have the break. If they decide to sort of throw that back in the FA's face and start playing friendlies, and that's up to them, and that's probably going to contribute to a further downfall. But I think if they can at least help or give the players, the teams, a chance to rest their players, and I don't think that can do any wrong.
And I think that that's a hypothetical thing. We don't know if that'll happen. And if the argument is, do I agree with a winter break where they play friendlies instead of league games, then I'm against that. I'm fully on your side. But if we're talking about a true winter break whereby that it's actually a break, the players actually get some time off, which I think especially all the players and the managers of the clubs would be massively in favour for. And I think it would piss off a lot of them if they introduced a break and then made them play games anyway. And the FA will be aware of that. They'll totally be aware of that, which I think will impact their decision. If it's a true winter break, I absolutely am in favour of it. But like you say, if that is the case, which I genuinely, for the reason I just said, don't think it will be, then yeah, I'm with you.
But then the fact of the matter is the only reason that they are debating the winter break is because of this new TV deal that's coming in. So there is obviously the financial incentive to take into consideration. And let's be honest, when there's a new TV deal that comes in, they're going to take it, the Premier League.
That doesn't necessarily mean international friendlies, though.
Yeah, but those sorts of friendlies are another financial incentive. I'm pretty sure that it happens elsewhere in the other leagues where they'll play friendlies during the winter break.
Right. Well, I'm not sure the extent to which international friendlies are a financial incentive, because it'll be a financial incentive with regards to the money you get from people watching it on TV. And I haven't seen the numbers in a while, but I remember looking up the number of people that actually tuned in to watch England friendlies, or even England World Cup qualifiers. The number is shockingly low.
I'm not
I don't even tell.
In international stage, I'm talking about club friendlies.
Yeah, but I think Alex is right in that people don't care about friendlies. I think that nothing should matter more than watching your national team play. And I accept that England has been poor for however many years, but I still think the reason they're introducing the UEFA Nations League is because people hate friendlies. They're so boring. Players don't want to play in friendlies. Ryan Giggs was notorious for not wanting to play in friendlies. It took him how many years to finally play in a friendly for Wales? People do not care about friendlies. The only reason they do them in the summer is to kind of keep them on their toes, keep them going a little bit more. I think in the middle of the season, I don't think that people are going to be that bothered, especially unless it's a sort of United versus Real Madrid or Chelsea versus Barcelona, that kind of big match with two big teams. If United are playing the sort of 7th place team in Thailand, I don't think you're going to get many viewers tuning in. But I think that probably is a good place to
look at the amount of people who show up to those sorts of friendlies in, for example, China, to know how much money they're going to be making on the day.
Oh God, but I appreciate that would be a financial incentive, but I think...
But that's the thing.
I would be unbelievably surprised. No, there is no way they will introduce a winter break and then be like, oh, but go fly to Asia for a game so your 85,000 fans can go watch it. Not a chance will they let that happen. Not a chance.
It's not the league who'll be doing that. It's the clubs themselves.
I just
clubs
can't,
do not do
I
that.
can't see the clubs.
No chance.
I personally can't. I mean, we think about the time when there are, let's just say United are out of a competition early on. Let's say the FA Cup, for example. The manager might take them to Qatar, but that will be for like a relaxation kind. I can't remember what like a sort of relaxation holiday kind of thing.
Like a rehabilitation camp.
Kind of, a camp, like a boot camp kind of thing. So they're training in slightly different circumstances, but that would be an opportunity, a sort of an identical opportunity to be playing these friendly matches, and they don't. So I don't think that a winter break will necessarily necessitate that. And equally, I don't think that the very slim possibility of playing these international friendlies is enough of a reason not to have it. But I think that probably is a good place to round off this debate, mainly because Alex needs to
by his own mistake. Let's make that abundant.
Yeah, next time,
I'm not denying that.
Next time, read the chat. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for choosing In the Dugout as always. I'm Josh. That's been Chris, and that is Alex. Not that you need reminding, because we're the most popular channel on YouTube.
Most popular channel in South Bristol.
Yeah. So, obviously, as always, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. And until the next time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.